the chains that bind you. Ooh, wow, it's a little dark. The chains that bind you. I love this song. Free, have perfect harmony. Isn't it time for that? Do you want to free the people? Yes, I do. Free the people from the bottom to the top. Make modern slavery stop. Do you want to let go of the prisoner? All right, I'm going to stop there. Good morning. Good morning. This is Gerard, greening the desert out here in West Texas. Oh, I love that song. It's a little dark. I haven't figured this out yet. I have to figure out a way where I can stream in the morning before it gets hot. I live out here in the desert, off grid in West Texas. My approach is automating homesteading. And unfortunately, I have to get started in the morning. So I apologize for it being so dark. What I'm going to have to do is figure out a place where I can stream outside of the greenhouse to get a little more light. I'll work on that for the next time. I've never live streamed on this channel, so I don't really know the format and how I'm going to do this. But what I'd like to do is address commentary on the videos. I have a lot of information I'd love to disseminate, and I don't know how to do it, and when you live off grid and you're building and greening the desert at the same time as automating and all of that, it's just a lot. So I think I'm gonna give this a shot in terms of just answering, random off-grid questions, commentary, homesteading, automation, as well as deal with the comments on the videos. But the intro, by the way, is Free the People. That's my good brother of mine, Pat, wrote that song for me. We became friends on Facebook, and one thing I will never do on this channel is I'm never going to get into the politics of why, but I will simply say that we need a better way to live. Well, this is really dark, isn't it? And I don't know if, let me see if I can, well, the sun is coming up, so I should lighten up as the morning goes, but let me tilt to the right a little bit. And we'll answer some commentary over some coffee. And then I will either get going or, oh, no, we're not doing that. No. We can't turn there because that's my kitchen. I don't know if y'all saw that. That was terrible. Yeah, you don't want to see the bad food I'm eating. No, I'm going to get judged. I am a vegetarian. I am about eating healthy, but when you're building off grid, you kind of got to do what you got to do. You got to eat what you got to eat. So anyway, but let's get into it. Hopefully everybody's having a good morning. Just I guess in general, as an intro, I was an automation engineer for a good 20 years of my life. Worked for a lot of big corporations, and I finally decided that I'm working for people that I probably shouldn't be. Worked in the chemical industry, worked for government, worked in the banking industry, airline, fast food, auto. I jumped around. My team was called Operations Development. We developed automation and robotics ideas, mostly APIs for corporations to allow them to basically make more money utilizing modern automation. And I just got to a point in life where I realized, no, I'm a human being. I don't really have any spit or fight for the corporate world, but I'd rather help people that need help. People who want to live a different way, in homesteading and developing land and, putting in fruit orchards, running livestock, chickens, etc., as opposed to helping big corporations that are already good. They don't need my help. So everything I develop, I'm giving away for free. If that wasn't known, all the software will be open source. The platform will be the Raspberry Pi, which is an open source circuit board that anybody can buy. They're very cheap. I think nowadays they might be about $80, and you don't have to get the modern ones. You can get the older ones for $50. Some of them you get for $20 on eBay. And so automation is the way to go. And before we get a whole lot of anything anti-automation stuff, I'll explain philosophically where I stand on automation. The wheel was automation. You can put the wheel on a tank, or you can put the wheel on a car and or an ambulance, and you can save a lot of lives with it. So I believe automation, the tool is never the problem. It's the implementation, right? So the wheel is automation as well as AI is automation. However, there's no such thing as AI. We have learning software. We call it AI in our industry because it sells more software. There is no AI anywhere on this planet. We're developing AI, but we aren't there yet. It's just learning software. So we can utilize learning software to help grow food forests, to green the desert. You know, some of you have been following me, you know that we're doing pond automation. In fact, I actually made a great jump in understanding the clay out here. I've sealed a couple ponds, and I thought I knew how. Well, I'm pretty sure I know the mechanisms and how I did it, but I just 2 days ago found a better way to do it, and I'll share that in a short here coming up real soon. Good morning, Estrella. Good morning. Good morning. All right, so I'm just going to jump into the commentary. Let me do the commentary on the last video, which was on cob automation. For anyone not familiar with cob is sand, clay, straw mixed together, and you can make a house with it. It basically replaces concrete. I love it because it's natural. I love it because it's free. Anybody, any American or anybody can literally just buy a piece of land, and you dig down deep enough, you're going to find clay, you're going to find sand. You just got to get the straw. Some people buy the straw. The two cob buildings I built out here, they were made from straw and alfalfa. When I was back in Pennsylvania working with a different type of non-expansive clay, we just use straw. You know, you can use hemp, you can do whatever. So you can buy a piece of land, you can put in what you need to grow, or just in clearing the land, you're getting a lot of grass because you're clearing it for your house and your buildings and your driveways and your sidewalks. You take all that hay, bundle it up, and you can use that later for building, buildings. You know, don't have to live in a cop house. You can build a garage with it, a shed with it, a dog house, etc. And so I'm gonna go through the comments here, and then I'm gonna deal with the comments on the cob house in between when we run out of commentary. And I don't know how to do this. Well, I am a live streamer. I live stream a lot of other platforms. I've never done it on this channel, so we'll figure it out as we go. If anything doesn't work right, or if you think there's a better way we can facilitate getting the information out or doing these videos or operating this channel, please let me know. I don't view this as my channel. A lot of things I know, they come from a lot of your collective knowledge as well as my friends, etc. Oh, Mama Bear, good morning. Good morning. Roof mulching sounds fun. Oh, no, rock mulching sounds fun. Yeah, well, I'm not sure what rock mulching is, Mama Bear, but I will tell you, I picked a plot of land in the hills out here on the desert, and there's a lot of rocks. Breaking up boulders is no fun. Breaking up rocks is no fun. I guess I consider myself a rock mulcher, and no. We're going to have to automate that, which leads us into the topic, automating cob building. And excuse the dogs. The dogs are trying to keep me safe and keep the land clear of coyotes and mountain lions, etc. So when they smell something early in the morning, they'll bark back. The coyotes like to howl in the morning, so you hear the dogs howling back at them. My chickens are broken. Still, they crow every day, all day long, and they crow into the night. But I'm okay with that because they give me delicious butt nuggets. Can y'all hear that actually? Because they're gonna do that. Dogs are wolves. They're just domesticated wolves, and these are livestock guardians. They're constantly jumping on top of each other. They're trying to figure out who the alpha is, making sure the alpha is strong. It's how the wolf pack works. If you have dogs, you're familiar with that. Yeah, they tussle. It sounds like they're fighting. They're not fighting. They're just doing what boys do, right? For the most part, they're pushing each other around and they're trying to determine who the boss is. Got to say, always thank you to the sponsors, Patreon, people with the super chat, and the new one is the buy me a cup of coffee. I need coffee. In corporate America, coffee is how it runs. You know how they say money makes the world go round? That's a lie. Coffee does. So I appreciate everybody dropping me a cup of coffee on buymeacoffee.com. But anyway, so the first comment looks like a great place to grow lots of okra. And that's Bert Johnson. Obviously, that's a friend of mine. He knows I hate okra. I'm sorry, we're not doing okra. Nope. Nowhere on my homestead will there be any okra. There'll be homeless folk. There'll be folk that have trouble, people who lose their jobs. I have a trailer. I let people stay out there and, and trade for getting a place, room and board. I give a play. Give people a place to stay and just give me a little bit of work every now and then as you're trying to get back up on your feet. So I do some of that. But the reason I want to automate cob building is because concrete is already automated. You can 3D print a concrete house. We've already got 12 companies doing that. There's no reason why we can't 3D print cob houses. The only difference is you got to pay for the concrete and you got to ship it in. The cob is free. It's going to be right there on your property. So, and that video kind of took you through the last one, what I did physically when I got here. I've made cob structures before in Pennsylvania, but I've never used expansive clay to build a cob house. And so that's here. Philosophically, when you do an automated approach, you got to do it first, physically, manually, so you understand the disciplines and what can go wrong. So when you start implementation, your automation, it helps you to understand the phases and how you want to automate, as well as the problems you can run into, and as well as possibly the eventual stage. So I wanted to do everything with the cob by hand, which is what I've done. I'm not going to do it again. Why? Because cob is inherently labor intensive and I do it all by myself. So after almost ripping my rotator cuff, stirring all the cob in the bucket, how y'all saw, and wheel with a wheelbarrow, not going to do that again. Most people, when they do cob, you bring a lot of friends over. It's kind of a hippie thing. You put out the tarp, everybody dances on the cob and sing songs and dance and stuff. And that's awesome. I love it. Don't get me wrong. It is a great thing. We all used to build our houses together. And when you do that, you develop friendships, right? And so I love that. And I'm not trying to stop that. But we live in a time where we've got a lot of homelessness. People need a new way to live. And we got to be able to give them non-toxic, low-cost housing. And if not, help them to do it themselves. If you're like me, you like the idea of retirement. I love the idea of retirement. Corporate America is a high-stress environment. I'm not interested in debilitating my immune system any longer working in a high-stress area. So I want to retire. And so you can buy a plot of land. You can build very low cost. And if we have a means of helping people automate that building, dropping the cost even further, now, retirement, instead of waiting 75 years, to your 75, you might be able to retire in the 50s. Imagine what life would be like if we could retire in our 50s, that you're still young enough to do things, or 40s or 30s, but anyway, let's go ahead and get into it. My eventual design. Thank you for your service. That's my chickens. He's gonna do that the whole time. But eventually, I want to be able to 3D print cob houses, either from a 3D printing arm, a very large one, which I'm not excited about, or drones. Right. So you can 3D print with manual drones on the ground, picking up a clump of cob, placing it, based in a CAD design. As well as you could do with flying drones, but I'm not interested in the flying drones. I'm talking about the ground drones, something probably about the size of a golf cart. Those are my eventual goals. I haven't decided yet what would be best. I imagine it depends on what you're building. So if you're building a very small house, a 3D printed arm could very easily 3D print or using a guide, a cob house very quickly, and it would be very low cost. The next up step in cost would probably be something like a drone about the size of a golf cart. But obviously, you're not going to get up 2 stories with a drone the size of a golf cart. And so you got the aerial drones, you got the lift drones. I've got a good buddy who works with lift drones where, you can, and he's a recent friend actually, where we could actually do the same thing with lift drones. And if you think like one clump of cob building a house or a warehouse or a building would take a long time, it will. But keep in mind, this is a drone and it's taking one clump at a time and it's working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So while you're asleep, it's still working and it's going all night. And then you can get 2. or you can get 3, or you can get 4. And so you can hopefully see the vision that I have is that in the future, we could pull up, 2 or 3 tractor trailers, 10 drones come out, ground drones, and they start building this house. And by the end of the day, or by the end of the week, whatever long it takes, the main structure of the building is done. The good thing about that as well is that when you got your piping and your plumbing, your electric, those things can be laid while the drones are actually laying the cob in the foundation based on a design that you drew on a sheet of paper and scanned into your smartphone into an app. So anyway, I'm not going to spend any more time with that. Let me do let me look at a few comments that are here, and then we'll jump into the comments on the video. And so I'm gonna try to keep up with more. When I live stream, I like to read the comments. I like to read every comment. So if you bear with me, we shall get there. Following the last rain, I noticed as the ground dried, the surface cracked. Yep. When you showed the clay expansion cracks, it clicked. I did a soil test on the top crack layer. It's 30% clay. Boom. See, and that, and these are things, Australia, if I'm saying your name right. These are things that I had to learn as well. When you see that cracking on the surface, that's clay. And then you can do the jar test to determine the content of your clay. And that'll determine if, how much work you'd have to do for actually making cob. I have about the perfect mixture here. So there's nothing I have to do for making that cob. I have almost 50% clay, 50% sand in the place that I harvested. Other places, I'm almost 80% clay, 90% clay in some places. And so that's for pond sealing, and you live in the desert, you got to have a pond. If you've got expansive clay, you can build and seal your ponds with clay. I used to build ponds in Philadelphia, and we would use liners, and you can do that too. I have a few liner ponds out here, as well as I have a few clay ponds. Let me see where this is going to go. See if we can do it this way, or if I should do the other comments first. So thank you, Gerard. You've given me the info. I need to look at sealing our own pond. Okay. We're a bit east of you. Oh, are you? Okay. Well, listen, hey, one day maybe we'll get out, grab a cup of coffee. That's fantastic information, and so you are out here, how dry it is. Hopefully you guys are getting a lot of rain, how we are. Most people are saying that the drought out here is coming to an end, which is why I point people to West Texas as a great place to buy land. This drought's coming to an end, and it's been so wet, I've been fighting flies. There are so many flies because they're breeding like crazy. It's just the weirdest desert I've ever lived in my lifetime. That's why I do the rain video, so y'all can see, like, when that river runs, it's great. And if you're looking to buy land out here, always look for an arroyo. And let me apologize again for anybody who came in. I haven't got the lighting right. The sun is coming up. Well, it's supposed to be coming up. But as sister would tell you, or brother, I'm sorry, Australia, I don't know who you are yet. We have a lot of smoke in the air, and I don't know what it is. There's been a haze for the last 3 days. People online are saying that there's some fires in El Paso. Someone else said, I think mentioned there might have been a forest fire, but that's why it's so dark. It's 7 o'clock in the morning here, and usually the sun is coming up and the panels are taking in power. But unfortunately, it's just really, really smoky and weird at the moment. So I apologize for the lighting. We don't have any rocks. Oh, that's great. You guys are in a great place. I deal with a lot of rocks. My sister lost 12 chickens a couple weeks ago in the morning. Yeah, when you start losing chickens, Gerg, you got to be very careful. I lost 1 chicken last week, and I was highly concerned as to why. But then because you want to be careful of disease. I have free range chickens, so my chickens run around. Birds come flying in. What all my friends are telling me is you got to be very careful with that, because the birds bring in like viruses, and the avian flu is a real thing. And 1 sick chicken can take out all the other chickens. So I lost a chicken. I was concerned, but I actually, unfortunately, I think I know how I lost that chicken. I was pouring gas into the truck the other day, because I don't know if you guys know. No, I didn't mention it on here. I probably mentioned it on some other platforms. Got the truck stuck hauling water in. I have a hill on my driveway, and 4-wheel drive failed. The truck dug in. So I tried to get up the hill a couple times. I couldn't get it. Backed it up. Tried to put the trailer in the spot, but the truck got stuck backing the trailer up. So this was a whole day event, unfortunately, and just finally got the truck out. Got the truck home. I got four-wheel drive in the next day and got the truck out. Unfortunately, I was out of gas, and so I had to transfer gas from a tank into the truck. You always got to have spare gas when you live off grid. You always got to have a spare for everything. It's a smart way to do it. You got to have a plan A, plan B, plan C if you can. Um, it's a very dangerous life when you live out far away from everybody else. So you want to make sure you're always planning for that. But anyway, so while I was pouring gas into the truck, I didn't know there was a chicken under the truck, and the chicken came out and it started pecking in it, and I think it drank some of the gas. And I unfortunately think I lost that chicken to the fact that it drank gas thinking it was water, and so that was 100% my fault. But like I say, though, unfortunately, in my view, on a homestead, every animal you lose is your fault. I blame me. I blame me for absolutely everything. And so I have to think a little bit more. And chickens are quick. They get under the truck. They like to sit under there for the shade. But when you have free range chickens, you're gonna lose a lot more chickens than if they're in a coop. So you got to really think about that if that's what you want to do. The model I'm doing is I'm trying to do it in a way where a person can make well, let's put it, make as much money as possible through regenerative farming. I'm sorry, it's in the morning, my mouth doesn't work yet. I haven't drinking enough coffee. And so if you got free range chickens, then they're out there eating. And so, you're not putting much into your operational cost. You're not feeding them as much. So my chickens go out every day. Now that I've got them stable with the dogs are, I'd say the dogs have accepted them. I don't say the dogs like them. The puppies like them. I have new puppies, and the puppies sleep with the chicks and the chickens, and they're all friends, and they lay on each other. Dogs actually clean the chickens, which is really weird, but I love it. So the chickens are now free range completely. So they get a certain amount of their diet out there. They're eating scorpions, they're eating snakes, they're eating flies, they're eating all these bugs. So they're getting a lot of protein. They're getting the grit because we're in the desert. So they got tons of that sand. I supplement the feed with Azola. I've mentioned that in a few videos. I'll tell y'all a little bit more about how that's going. That's going fantastic. This is the best Azola year I've ever had. I'm not exactly sure what I did to make it work, but I'm still going through some theories. Every day I just go through the pond, I scoop up that Azola. The Azola is that aquatic fern that grows on the top of the water. It grows exponentially. So one day I'll go and I'd say I get about a quarter pound of Azola out of there. I'll go dump it in the chicken coop. They go through it. They love it. They eat it. And by the next day, that quarter pound is ready to go again. So the bigger ponds that I'm working on, they're going to be capped with Azola because I have a theory in what that's going to do to reduce evaporation. Azola being a fern, it doesn't transpire as much water as other aquatic plants. So I think that the whole pond being capped by a good half an inch, quarter of an inch layer of Azola, it's going to reduce evaporation. We don't get tons of it out here anyway, but that's kind of my goal. And so I want to supplement the feed on that. So let me grab a few questions from the Cobb video, and then I'll go back to these questions over here. And so, Wild Bert, yes, no, I will not be growing okra. No, no okra is not going to happen. The Kakuza squash is growing amazing. I have a friend in El Paso that gave me, his father grows them. He gave me some seeds and I planted them. And I wasn't sure what this was. I thought this was a squash because if you see my planting method, when I go out and I'll plant something, I know what it is. And then I'll take a bunch of seeds from last year, random, and I'll just put them in because you want to get things going. I always plant like a tree if it's spaced out, and I'll plant a perennial. And so we'll determine, what will stay is what does well right there. So I get my crop from that year, but then I get a perennial that's ground cover as well as feeding the exudates to the microbiology in the soil, which keeps the soil going over the wintertime when the crop aren't growing, as well as a tree. And that tree is going to eventually be shade in a windbreak. So that area won't grow full sun crops, but it'll grow part shade crops. So I believe in like doing this in a way where you do it once, but you get multiple benefits down the road. So every time I plant, I do that. The first orchard, which I'm gonna show you guys soon, is doing fantastic. The trees are doing fantastic. Last year, I really wanted them to bush out. I wanted to really, really water and get branching going on. But we had that heat wave last year. And so we had a heat wave last year. I had truck problems last year. I had trailer problems last year. So I couldn't get a lot of water and I had to make a choice. And unfortunately, the garden had to go. and the trees had to stay. I had to keep the trees alive. So I watered the trees and I didn't water the garden. So last year's garden was horrible, but this year it'll be another year of sustainable growing where I grow all my own food in the desert, which is an amazing, fun thing. And like I said, all this information, everything I'm learning, I'm just going to, it's for you. It's for free. This is my way of trying to give back. My statement has always been, I bought land in West Texas because anyone can afford to buy land out here. And, my statement also is that all over this planet, whether you believe in science or religion, we are 7 billion cousins and we got to look out for each other. And I personally have done a piss poor job of doing that my entire life. I did pretty well. I made some money and I spent it all out here. So I've spent all my retirement money out here because I think it's the right thing to do. We have people who are struggling, living, working 2 and 3 jobs, working fast food, doing Ubers, doing whatever, barely making it. A lot are single moms. And so in my opinion, I could have just bought land in a beautiful place, which is what I was going to do, which I believe this is a beautiful place now that I've never lived in a desert in my life, but I love the Chihuahuan Desert. Every morning, the sunrise is amazing. But I was looking in Belize at first. And the reason why I decided not to buy land in Belize and homestead there is because a lot of people here need help. I did well and I can help them. So I'd rather come out here, deal with the hardships myself, make the mistakes myself, so that when I encourage people, hey, you know what, you should homestead, you can go to West Texas, I know how to do it. Anyone can buy land out here. Most of the land out here, or a lot of it, is no money down, no credit check. You'll end up with 25 to 50 acres. And if you end up with the 50 acres, your mortgage will be like $200 and something a month. Anyone on a fast food, salary can probably afford that, right? You might have to make some cutbacks if you have it hard, but we need a new way to live. And that's why I'm here. Instead of buying land in a place with lots of resources, I bought land in a place where the land value was undervalued, but also cheap enough that anybody can buy it, and giving that information away for free. And anybody's got a little age on them, you understand what I'm saying? The older you get in life, the more you ask yourself, what did I do? What was the value in my life while I was here? Did I help people or did I help myself? And you got to help yourself. You got to lift yourself up first. But you get to a point where your kids are grown, my boys are grown, they're all grown men. I was asking myself, is this place a better place because I was here? I do think about my father, and I think about his funeral, and I think about all the people that came to his funeral. There was a line outside the church, people trying to get in there to say goodbye. And to me, the value and the testament of your life is how many people's life you made better by being here. And he instilled that in me. One of my goals is to be just a percentage of the man he was, in which I may not ever make it, but that's fine. I'm going to do the best I can. So I want to make as many people's lives better if I can. So that's why I'm saying all my information I'm giving away for free. So I do appreciate all you guys' time and your support. So I'm going to try to keep it moving. And these comments are raw. I've not read these. I'm reading them to y'all, you guys, right while we're here. I appreciate the positive comments as well. And the model just might be wait till a video has like 15 comments so that there's enough content for that. Or if we get a lot of commentary here and questions in our interaction, I'll do these more regular. I just don't want to waste your time. And I've got a lot of work to do as well. So as long as the live streams are valuable, I'll do more and more of them. It'd be nice if every morning over a cup of coffee, we could live stream, talk about off-grid living and automation, things like that, and then get on with our day. But it'll based on the value it is to you guys. There's a Middle Eastern design for a house that uses an underground ice house. Ooh, that sounds interesting. That's from Random Fandom. Yeah, living underground is a great thing. Random Fandom, I would recommend everybody, as you guys know, the Cobb house is inside of a greenhouse, and that greenhouse is technically a Wallapini because it's underground. So right now, I haven't used my air conditioner at all this year. Well, I turned it on for 30 minutes. It needs to be recharged, so I turned it off anyway. But the Cobb house, now that sun isn't hitting it because it's in the greenhouse and it's using that geothermal cooling, it stays cool enough. I even got a swamp cooler in there, and I've only used that swamp cooler once or twice this year. We've had 113 degrees. So living underground is where it's at. And Random Fan, to your point, yep, if you were in a frozen place, living underground, you're going to use that geothermal heat to stay warm. If you're in a hot place like I am, it's mostly hot. The ground temperature is cool, the living space. And you can, in emergencies, it's always good to have an air conditioner, swamp cooler, a heater. Emergency times, you turn them on. But it was great to find out that during the summer, I don't need an air conditioner and I don't need a swamp cooler. And in the winter, I've got a backup heater if I need it. Last winter, I did use it because, as y'all know, I'm replacing the greenhouse roof. And in the winter, the wind decided, which is when our windy season is, you messed up on the roof, dummy. You're not a carpenter. You're not a construction guy. You don't know how to do roofing. And the wind just took that plastic off. So I'm doing a hard roof. And so I lost most of the plants in the greenhouse, but I'll show y'all that soon too, because a lot of them came back. The lantana came back. We lost the jackfruit. All the citrus came back. The castor's growing really well, but a lot of the plants lived underground when we got that freeze. And so, yeah, I did have to use a heater this winter. Random Phantom also said, mount a rotor tiller on the hinge so you can dip down, and half a steel drum for mixing cob. Yeah, you know what? And so, Random, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to figure out the best way to mix it. So that's why I was using the towable backhoe to mix it. And again, this is something most people can afford. You buy a backhoe, you're going to spend 80 grand, or you buy a towable backhoe and you can spend, I think it was like 5 grand. And that's still kind of pricey for a lot of people who don't have a lot of money. But, how do you mix it? And this is what I was saying in the video, is that I've seen people do it with a bobcat and a tractor. I've never seen anyone do it with the backhoe. And so with my boys and their friends, when they came out, it's taken us 2 years, but now we've kind of got a method that works real well. You have 1 or 2 people on either side of the pit. They're kind of shoveling in, and the backhoe, you're like lifting up, the heavy stuff, 200-300 pounds of cob, dropping it back down. For what gets splattered on the side, the guys on the side with the shovel and gals are shoveling back in, and so the backhoe, it works best going side to side and digging down deep, saving the back work of the people on the side. Eventually, I want to be completely automated, but I'm not there yet. I do have plans, Random, for building an implement for the front of this Bobcat. Mind you, this is a very old Bobcat. It does not have PTO. This thing was literally made when I was born. This is a very old Bobcat. Although I'm not that old, but that's not the point. So I have to make an implement, and I do want to put an auger on the front of it. So I'm gonna make an implement for an auger for the front of it. So I can dig down deeper, mix the cob up with an auger, but also use that auger for putting in trees. When you're greening the desert, you got to get a lot of trees in. They break the wind, they take the sand out the wind, they bring the shade. And if you've got, hundreds or thousands of trees to put in, having an auger on the tip of your Bobcat or tractor to dig down is going to save you a lot of time, as well as you're going to dig down deeper. Out here, we have that caliche stuff, and digging through that by hand was no fun. I do not recommend that at all. Let me see. I'm just trying to read the comments that are based in the video. And I apologize. I can't read every comment, but I'm going to read as many as I can. And I didn't go through these ahead of time. Here we go. Haslock said, you need an old cement truck to mix that. Yeah, I do. That would be nice, wouldn't it? That's what I want. At least I've seen them. Okay, and they're cheap. So Haslocks, I would love to do that. Get an old cement truck. Maybe down the road, as the homestead grows and more people move in, having a cement truck mixer, you get all the cob in there, get that stuff mixed up nice. And I mean, the better you mix it up, the better. The mix is the key. With your sand, your clay, and your straw, and you could have that cement truck drive 1,000 feet, half a mile, or wherever, to dump the cob. In fact, you probably could pour the cob out the back of the cement mixer. And again, I'm not a construction guy, is what I'm guessing, into some sort of an arm that feeds the cob right down to where it needs to be on the house, and just have people shaping it up. So having a cement mixer would be great. I just don't have the 80 grand for it. And most people probably don't, but and if that sucker broke down, I wouldn't know how to fix it. Out here, like I said, you can't drive cars. You need a 4-wheel drive. this clay out here, this bentonite expansive clay, it loves to get trucks stuck in. So I'd be real concerned though with a heavy vehicle out here like that. Um, okay. Some other folks, some other comments are talking about what they're planning on doing as well. Let me read the comments over here, see if I missed anything. Well, I missed a lot, obviously. Yes, sir. We're planning to have a food forest at the moment. Need to get digging in the first pond. Okay, in the forest, but we have no heavy equipment. It's all shovel work. Ooh, yes. Estria. This is my gym. This is why I don't go to the gym. I don't know anybody that lives off grid that goes to the gym. This is your gym. And even though I do have the little towable backhoe and now I do have the Bobcat, when I first got here, all I had was a shovel and a wheelbarrow. And even though I have those, there's still work that requires that back work of the shovel. So, and even breaking up the rocks, the Bobcat and the back, neither are very good at breaking up the rocks out here. So I'd have a breaker bar, and when it's time to do it, you bring the breaker bar out, you start breaking the rocks up, and start removing them by hand. And while that's hard work, it's great because it gives me a lot of rocks, and you need rocks for the foundation of the cob houses. In fact, I use a lot of those big rocks repairing the road that I just dug up when the truck got stuck, when the four-wheel drive broke. I use those rocks. I'm building cob houses for the dogs, and so I use those rocks for that. This greenhouse here, like this wall behind me, if you guys have seen the pictures, all of this plywood is going away. The 2x4s are staying. The rocks are the foundation of the cob underneath, and all of this is going to be cob behind me and, windows within. So all the sides of the Wallapini greenhouse are all going to be cob. There's temporary plywood and this fencing right here, which keep the chickens out, because the chickens, the only complaint I have about free range chickens is they will eviscerate your garden. And the only reason why I've only now recently started eating from my garden this year is the chickens got in and they went to town. Oh my goodness. They just ate the garden down to a nub. So now I'm getting the netting up everywhere, and it's kind of encouraging to go out and find more food. I haven't figured out yet a good balance between what I feed them and what they're getting out there. That'll come over time. I think a lot of it has to do with whether or not the chickens are running behind me. Like when they're running behind me, anytime I go to the truck, which is where I keep the food or the dog food, it means they're not getting enough food. Your chickens should never be chasing you, right? Like if they're getting enough food, then, one or two chickens might come after you looking for food. But all like, it's like an army. They rush me. They all just come running when I open the truck door. And that's when I know they're not getting enough. And so I give them more food. So there's a balance, and I'm trying to figure out. But the more it's raining now, the more food they're finding, the less and less they do that. But that's how I know when they're hungry. Good morning, everybody who just came in. Love any links on off-grid refrigeration. So Mama Bear, currently my refrigerator is right there. When I first moved out, dug a hole in the ground, brought ice in, put it in Tupperware, and I had to go to town every 2 days to get ice. That evolved into a small refrigerator, like the real compact ones, like the ones we got in college. And I used that because I used very little power as my battery bank was growing. Now I have I think it's called a mid-size refrigerator. It's not a full size. So I use that. Eventually I'm going to do a root cellar. For people who eat meat, in my opinion, the best thing to do is to get a deep freezer. Like, the freezer chest that open from the top, get all your meat packed down in there. That'll keep things cool, your vegetables and everything on the sides and things, because the more you pack it, the colder it's going to stay, the less power it's going to use, so that's what I would recommend. I use the lithium iron phosphate batteries. I do believe in them, but I don't recommend them anymore as much as I used to. They have an infinite lifespan if you keep the state of charge between, is it 60 and 80%? So your batteries could outlive you. However, they're very expensive. And it's still a new thing. Like they're still learning and debating on how to charge them, the best way to maintain them, because it's relatively new. So the charge controllers aren't, where they really should be in terms of it being a new technology. What I do recommend people in the moment, if you don't have a lot of money to waste, is and nobody has a lot of money to waste, and I don't have a lot of money to waste, but I went that route. Again, I'm learning. I'd rather lose the money and make a good recommendation as to someone else who really, really needs it, a single mom with 3 kids, which I know a lot of them who are moving off grid, to do something I recommend and it be a disaster. I recommend the lead acid battery still. And the reason why I do is because now you've got the chargers that have a fixed cycle. So you can put what happens to a lead acid battery is it sulfates the electrodes, if I'm saying that right, the electrodes, I believe that's what it is. And the sulfur builds up on them. And so they charge less and less and less and less. And eventually it can't hold the charge it used to. But now you have chargers, which are $29 now on eBay and Amazon and different places that have a fixed cycle for lead acid batteries. All you do is put on that fixed cycle, let it run for a few days or sometimes a day. And when it's done, your battery is almost new. So they're speculating that now lead acid batteries, like what's in your car, should last 10 times longer than what they are, as long as you maintain them. The funny thing is welders apparently knew about this a long time. They've been desulfating batteries for a long time, but we won't get into planned obsolescence and all of that. But I do recommend lead acid batteries because they're so cheap. If you know someone that works at like an auto place or you're a mechanic or whatever, when people get rid of those batteries, grab the cord, take it, put it on a desulfator. If you still live on grid and you're moving off grid, collect those batteries, use that on grid power, desulfate these batteries. So when you move out, instead of spending thousands of dollars for 20 lead acid batteries, you've got a massive 20, lead acid battery bank, and it costs you almost nothing because people discard those batteries like they're nothing. All right, let's keep it going. I want to make sure I get all the comments from I'm not going to be able to get all the comments. This is actually going better than I thought. So I'm not going to be able to get all the comments from that video. But and also Cal Random said as well, to try to use a mortar mixer. I actually have a mortar mixer. A good brother of mine brought me one, and it's sitting out there, and that probably is going to be the next step in the cob making process. Do cob walls crack like 3D printed concrete walls do? Yes, if you do it wrong, Messiah Mind. If you have a bad mixture, your cob wall will crack. What I've mentioned and what I figured out here, all clay is not clay. It's not the same. In Pennsylvania, like I think I mentioned in the video, you have what's called hydrated clay because it stays wet. Out here, you have extremely expansive clays because they're extremely dry and they've been dry for a very long time. So they expand 300 times sometimes their size, like the bentonite clays out here. You would think that would create cracking, but it doesn't. The only time I see any cracking with this expansive clay out here is when I'm doing the finishing walls on the inside. When I do the finishing walls on the inside in the pottery, it cracks a lot because it expands so much. And anyone who does pottery would know this. I'm a novice at it. But in terms of the cob wall, the expansive clays out here, when this stuff dries, like I'm actually sitting in front of the first house I have, that cob is so hard, you'll hurt yourself. You would literally like it feels like concrete. That stuff is so solid because you get it wet when you're putting the cob down, and when it dries, it shrinks and everything locks together. The pebbles, the rocks, the sand, the clay, the straw, and the clay. It creates a solid form. And so out here, it doesn't rain enough to destroy a cob wall quickly. The building that we're working on right now, the one where we raised the walls up to about 7 feet, that building's been sitting out there for almost 2 years. My son started that 2 years ago, and it's been sitting in all the rain and none of it eroded. So you can get cracking, but if you do get cracking, it's based on your cob mixture. I'm not a cob expert, so I don't want to pretend that I am. I believe I got most of the comments on there. I appreciate. If I missed some, I can do another video and we can go through it. If I missed your comment, I apologize. I want to hit the comments here. I want to try to wrap up in about an hour. I don't want it to be too long of a thing, but I appreciate everybody's time. I appreciate you guys joining in. Again, thank you for all your support. It's been an interesting voyage. I've been out here about 4 years now, and I've learned a lot. This is more of a research project than anything else. Plastic and shade cloths here um, get torn from the windstorms when they come through. It has to be so tight that it can't move. Yep, to prevent friction and melting. And I had to learn that Australia with the greenhouse plastic roof. If you talk to people who really know what they're doing, like in Oklahoma and those who build these greenhouses in the high winds, they say exactly what you say. If you pull it really real tight, the wind rolls right by. But if you've got the smallest creaks, the smallest ways for that plastic to move, the wind will rip every single shade cloth. Out here is where shade cloths come to die. I have so many of them. And I try to recycle them. I cut them up the next year, use them as much. Between the UV, the sun, and the wind, they just destroy them. I do have one wind sail, which I would say it is designed for high wind, and when I set that one, I pull it tight, but even that one gets beat up a little bit. I think when they do these high wind greenhouses, they're pulling that plastic down so tight they have more than just one person doing it, or one person who knows what they're doing could do it. I obviously don't. They pull that sucker so tight, the wind can't touch it. But then they got those hurricane straps that they tie them down with as well. But the long-term shade solution obviously should be trees. But in the meantime, to get your garden going, you got to get shade cloths out here, because full sun out here is not full sun other places. In the afternoon, your garden is going to want to break from this the beat down of the UV of the sun that you get out here in West Texas. Concrete pump truck. They have the arm that you can use. Okay, the way you're talking about. Yeah, I thought I saw that. Yep. And so that way, that would be an easy way to place the cob. And I would imagine, if you know what you're doing, you really could just use that arm to just drop that concrete right where, or the cob right where you want it, right in a circle, to make a tiny house. And with one big tank of that truck, you might be able to finish most of the house, which it's a great idea, great thing great idea for someone to try. Yeah, you can get a lot done with that. You can get a lot done with them tools. Yeah, you can. Tools are critical moving off grid as well. And they get expensive. I recommend people, if you have a pawn shop or thrift shop near you that has tools, you want to get as many tools as you can, and you want backup tools. If you got money, you can buy them all brand new. I don't, so I get them from the pawn shop. I've got a pawn shop that has lots of tools that I think contractors, they use them to they're not as efficient as they need to be, and they throw them to a pawn shop, and you can go pick up tools for like 20% of their original value, and that's what I do. Hey, Gerard, love what you're doing. Keep up the good work. A friend of mine and I are looking to learn about homesteading. Are you open to volunteers coming to help to learn from what you're doing? Absolutely. Collectors Cafe fan. What I'm doing, I've tied in with a network of homesteaders, and very soon I'll be working with them. They'll be offering classes. So if you live in the Oklahoma area, if you live in the Mississippi area, well, Oklahoma's not area, it's a state, but not too far for that. We'll be having classes in Oklahoma. We'll be having classes in Mississippi and classes in Texas. I think North Carolina is another site that's joining the network. So we'll be doing classes out there as well. People want to come down, inbox me. Certainly we can talk about it. I have people come down all the time, that I've got my, this extra camper I have where people stay out there, and you can kind of come out and learn, but let me know ahead of time. We'll try to figure that out. 4 years, no refrigerator here. You still lose power frequently. Chest freezer. Yeah, chest freezer is great, Mama Bear. As well as I'd recommend, canning and dehydrating. I know how to can. I used to dehydrate in Philadelphia. I've paused from the canning because botulism is a thing. And if you really don't know what you're doing, you really want to work with someone who really does. There they go. I don't know if you can hear me over them, but that's what they do. I've got a bunch of livestock guardians, and they got to make sure they maintain who the alpha is. Let me see what else we got. Put me in contact. Oh, okay. You guys are talking back and forth. It's weird. I guess it doesn't show me if you're replying to each other. You're talking to me. So then I'm going to do this the best that I can. Hydro be the best bet. Lead acid cores. Cool. Thanks. Okay. We're talking about that was the battery portions. Know a little bit of stuff about the power storage. Okay. Well, and Mama Bear, another thing I would add to that, someone when he mentioned hydro, this is what you guys are talking, folks are talking about. So I've got my upper pond, which is done. It's got to be sealed. I've got the middle pond, which is the one that's almost done. It's about the size of an Olympic swimming pool. And I've got the big pond that I've started that I actually broke one of the actuators for the backhoe, just lifting the rocks out. Some of these rocks are 14 inches thick, and there are limits to what that sucker can do. And which is why I got to do a lot of work breaking them by hand. But anyway, so what I'm planning on doing is filling up the upper ponds and having the upper pond fill into the low pond. So pumping all the water from the lower pond to the top pond so they completely top off, and then having two hydro generators, one between the top pond and the middle pond, between the middle pond and the lower pond, and at nighttime letting that water trickle down just enough to where it creates enough current. My batteries are 24 volts, so just enough current to keep the batteries topped off, right? Because again, with lithium iron phosphate, you want to keep them between a state of charge of 60 and 80%. So all night, all day long, the solar panel will pump the water to the top, and the water will trickle back, creating power hopefully all night or most of the night, or even for 6 hours. But either way, it really helps, especially in the wintertime where we got those long, dark nights where we don't have any power. Um, and that's where you can use ponds and gravity as a battery. But we'll talk about that more down the road. I don't want anyone to be scared away from power systems. Setting up solar systems is very easy. If you ever get in trouble, let me know. I'll do anything I can to help you. A lot of the equipment nowadays are highly automated. I use Victron, and that's who I like the most. For BMS, I use Dali. They all have Bluetooth dongles. And so like right here, I can check my state of charge and battery. I can check history. I can run reports on the solar panels. When a fleet gets disconnected or the dogs shoot through a wire or something happens, I can see that right away. So these systems aren't nearly as hard as they used to be. And you could literally learn to do them just from YouTube. If you want to go pay a solar company 50 grand to do your system, you can, or 30 grand or whatever they're charging, but you can do it yourself. And if you live out here in the Arizona, West Texas, out west, there's a place in Gilbert, Arizona that sells used solar panels. All my panels are used. I don't have any new panels. They're all used. They put them on, as I understand it, they put them on top of the house. They have like a 10-year contract. After 10 years, they take them down off the house because they start cracking on the back. They put new panels back up on the house, and they sell those used panels. So when you get those used panels, what you do is you flip them over. As long as the cracking isn't too bad, you get epoxy, reseal the back, and those panels be good for another 10 years or more. So the thing is, they don't, most homeowners don't want to keep up the maintenance on the panels. So most of the panels I paid between $20 and $30 each, and these are $400 and $500 panels. So that's the other thing I'd recommend with you guys. They've got a website. They're out of Gilbert, Arizona. I don't have the name of them off off of the tip of my mind in the moment. I don't remember their name, but there's only one company I know that's doing that and they're on eBay as well. But if you do a search on Google for used solar panels, Gilbert, Arizona, I'm sure they'll come right up. And nope, they don't pay me anything. I just think what they're doing is fantastic, allowing people to buy very low cost solar panels. All right, I'm gonna try to get down to the last comments, and we'll wrap this up here in 7 minutes. Trading for the core. Okay. When you move off, when did I move off grid? Oh, y'all talking back and forth. I'm sorry. I'm getting your discussion. All right. Amazingly, the asparagus doesn't seem to care about the sun. I planted crowns back in early May, and they're doing really, really good. I was surprised at how well I could grow out here. I really am. What grows the best for me out here? The figs do very good. The peach does it very good. And I think it's the minerals in the soil they love. Squash is ridiculous. The second year I was out here, I grew so much squash, I didn't know what to do with it. I couldn't give it away fast enough. I would go to town and try to give it away to friends. Pumpkins grow really well out here. I just started doing the asparagus, and that it's the second year, and so shoots are all coming up. I think I got to wait the third year before I get a lot of them. Basil is growing really well out here. I'm growing because of last year's heat wave. I'm growing most of my food now in the aquaponic systems. So everything I put in there obviously is growing really well. The mint, etc. I've got that astragalus membranus that's growing. And if you're not familiar with astragalus, look up astragalus membranus, specifically that variety. That's the variety that has that compound they call TA65 that reactivates telomeres. If you're familiar with that, we age because the caps on the ends of our telomeres degrade. And this is one plant in, I think, a couple that they found. A sister out of Stanford University found that it reactivates the telomerase enzyme that repairs the telomere caps on the ends of your chromosomes. And so astragalus membranus, it grows, it loves dry places, and it grows well out here. And if it sounds like I'm describing the fountain of youth, it kind of sounds like I'm describing the fountain of youth. But the thing is that when your telomeres, when the caps on your telomeres, when the caps on your chromosomes called telomeres go down to nothing, you start getting chromosomal damage. And that's why the cells that are being made in your heart, your lungs, your liver, your immune system, etc., your skin, your hair, they don't have a full complement of DNA. They don't have a full chromosome. And so you get gray hairs, you get wrinkles, you get, like, modern aging, they're saying, is related to the fact that the damage in the telomere, the damage in the chromosomes, which starts with the telomeres, ends up causing that damage. So anyway, I'm off on what my sons call side questing. I'll stop with that. But that's one plant that I am growing. It did not grow well in Pennsylvania. It grows really, really well out here. I got to plug my battery in. We'll do the last couple comments, and we'll see the next time we do this. I would appreciate some feedback if you guys want. Was this informative? Was this a good time? Do you like the format? Or I try to read through some of the comments on the videos. I actually do have StreamYard, and I used to use it a long time ago. I'm going to work on using that again, and we'll pull the Facebook family in as well as the YouTube family. It'll give me more features. I can show my desktop. I can pull up videos. I'll get the lighting fixed next time for sure. I'll keep my jokes to myself, but yeah, I have a lot of jokes that I want to say, but I'm not going to say. I'm trying to stay out of trouble. Free Pile and Big here in Vermont. Okay. How about the rest of Americas? Okay, I didn't know you were in Vermont. I got a lot of friends in Vermont. Mama Bear. Oh, I know who Mama Bear is. I had to think about it for a little bit. I was like, yeah, I got friends in Vermont. Okay. Husband installed our entire solar system. Oh, you did? Okay. Yep. And they're not hard to do. We make mistakes, but they're not hard to do at all. Okay. Secondhand is how I live. Okay. Yep. Mama Bear lives off grid up in Vermont as well. Lots of laughter. We've been off grid for 6 months. Okay. Well, I'll say this. I do love it off grid, you guys. Is it Santan Solar? It is Santan Solar. Thank you, Australia, for looking that up. It's Santan Solar, you guys. So they're the ones who sell the used solar panels, and they'll ship them to you as well. Now, mind you, you're going to pay freight, so it gets really expensive if you're going a long distance. But I still did that in Pennsylvania, and these panels were still cheaper than buying them new, which was kind of stupid. But I'm not the smartest. I'm not the smartest guy I know. I had them shipped from Gilbert, New Mexico to Pennsylvania. I think it was 4 panels to start with. I want to make sure I had them. And then I drove them back out to West Texas within 8 hours of Gilbert, Arizona. And while that's just ridiculously hilarious, the cost on freight and the cheapness in the panels was still cheaper than if I bought them brand new. And that's what I mean. And if you watch their website, Santan Solar, you guys, you'll see that the prices are always changing because they sell them per panel. So you'll get a whole fleet of panels if you want to remain the same for different prices. So sometimes $40. Sometimes you'll see panels out there for $20 each. All right. Good sidetrack info. Okay. Well, that's what I'm trying to do. Always good listening. Okay. Hey, listen, you guys, I'm going to get out of here. It's been an hour. I'm going to try to cap them to an hour. Appreciate your time. And I'm going to try to do these as often as I can. But now that the day is into almost 8 o'clock, I need to get out and start getting some work done. Appreciate all your comments and questions and support. You guys have a great day. This is Gerard coming to you from the wilds of West Texas. And I'd like to say goodbye as soon as I can find the button. There it goes. Okay, I know how to leave. All right, you guys have a great day. I love y'all now. Take it light.